Hello, I'm Michael Webrow, and in this video I'm going to give you an introduction to web services. So our mobile devices are typically internet connected, either because they have Wi-Fi or the use of mobile radios that communicate via 3G, 4G or 5G wireless technologies. And many of the apps on our smartphones use the internet to access and then store data. So this can be things like social media apps, Facebook, Instagram, chat clients, and they're obviously using the internet for passing information back and forth or keeping their state up to date. And we also have many apps that download or play back content from the internet, for example, podcast catchers or YouTube clients, this kind of thing. And while the web is important to us, it also brings about some challenges. For example, what if the device you have loses network connectivity? For example, you enter an area of low coverage, go through a tunnel, go onto a flight, for example. What happens if the data that's in the process of being downloaded is interrupted, and if you're depending on web services and the person who runs those web services changes the format for the API endpoints, how does your app cope with that? So, as developers, we need to ensure that our applications handle these kind of situations. So if there's no network connection, you let the user know. Or, for example, if you're posting a message for a new post to Facebook and you have no connectivity, the app shouldn't just crash, or it shouldn't just lose that message. It should do something better, like queue up the message and so that it can be sent when the device has a network connection again. This means if you're downloading data from the internet, you keep a local copy so that the app can still be used if the device has no network connection. And if you're uploading data, as I said, you store it locally and then upload it when you can. So it's worth talking about the way that internet-connected devices and servers communicate. And this is via something called HTTP or HTTPS, which is Hypertext Transfer Protocol. And this is basically the language that browsers and web clients speak to communicate with each other. And, HTTP is pretty great because it allows all of the different web servers on the internet and the devices to talk to each other. When we make requests for web content, either through a browser or via calling a web service in our apps, we get back ideally the content that the web server returns. But we also get some additional information like headers and response codes. Some of the common response codes are listed here. They can be things like 200 if everything's okay, 400 if the request is malformed, forbidden if you don't have access to access a particular page, and you've probably seen the 404 one, which is very common if you visit a web page of a server where that page doesn't exist. Excuse me. Alright, there's a couple of different kinds of requests. The most common one is the one you would usually enter into like the address bar of a browser. This might be something like sending a search request to a search engine like Google, and you have a web page and you can pass some additional information via a query string, which are basically like a set of parameters that you're passing the web page. This is how your particular query is passed to Google. And you can get back some content, and that content might be an HTML page, it might be a CSS page, it might be an image file, a video, or something else. And you're limited by small amounts of information which you can encode, text information, into these query strings which are appended on the end of the URL for the page. Another kind of request is a post request, and a post request is similar to a GET request, except that you can also submit some information in the body of the request. And how this works is that you can give a series of bits of information or just a single piece, and this could be things like videos, images, or other binary data. It can also be used to store textual information that's sensitive, as in things we don't want other people to see, and that could be things like usernames, passwords, authentication keys, etc. And when you send a post request, you're going to receive a response back in the same way, and the kind of information that's also sent is the content type of the thing you're sending, which could be an image file if it's just a single thing, or if it's like a form data off of a form that the user enters details into fields and clicks the submit button, then you'll get a version of that that's encoded. Okay, thanks for watching. In the next video I'll talk about JSON format, which is a common response format.